And we are live.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome, Neil and Hans. I call the meeting to order at 9:34 a.m. Are we good? Okay. Before we get started today on this meeting, I have a public apology to make to our council and to the CAO. It was my idea and quite persistent to put the letter from Dan Borowick on the agenda. I made the mistake. I do not want Troy Gilmore to have to take any blame for that because I was the one that did it. So I am publicly apologizing to Alma Calderman Council and to Troy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. Approval of the agenda as circulated. Be it resolved that the agenda for the special council session asset management of Thursday, June 9th, 2022 be approved as circulated. Can I have a mover? Councillor Phillips, second by Councillor Hogg. All in favor? Carried. Item 5 is a presentation by Hans Hens, Director of Project Management, and Neil Roberts, President, Infrastructure Solutions Incorporated, our asset management plan.
Thank you.
Is your volume turned down?
Yeah, I had my, I had work in mind and I unmuted myself to talk. So I'm now clear about where I am. We've called for a vote to approve that agenda, but I appreciate Mayor Latchford that apology, and I think that's a class move. And but I do not believe that that letter from Dan Borowick should be within this special meeting on asset management. I don't think this is the place for it. So, you know, we didn't get just that moved on without an opportunity for discussion, but I believe that that letter should be taken off the agenda for this meeting.
Can we do that? Huh?
Yes, you can. Get the mover and seconder to amend
So if they amend the approval of the agenda, does it specific, and then, okay. So the motion would then be it resolved that the agenda for the special council session asset management of Thursday, June 9th, not be approved as circulated with the removal of item 6. Be amended to remove item 6. Okay, Mike, you were the mover
Sure, I'm fine with that.
and you're the seconder. Are you okay with that? Okay, so item 6 is removed from the agenda. All in favor? Carried. So be it resolved that council permit Hans Hens, Director of Project Management, and Neil Roberts, President of Infrastructure Solutions Incorporated, to take the floor to make a presentation to council regarding the Township of Alma Calderman's asset management plan. I need a mover for that. Moved by Deputy Mayor Gibson, second by Councillor Phillips. All in favor? Carried. So Neil and Hans, we'll let you take the floor.
Perfect. Neil, do you want to do a quick introduction and then I'll start the presentation?
Well, thank you for that opportunity, Hans. We've had I think you're aware, a long and extensive history with working with your community. So we're happy to come back and write the asset management plan. We've done so in the past. There's a couple of things that I'd like to have perhaps circulated, or at least for you guys to take a look at, is that the company by the name of Verdantix, it's a investigative group out of Britain, has done a study of all asset management planning softwares currently in the marketplace. I think 15 companies from across the globe were studied, and we came out on top of that analysis. So there's a report that came out about a week and a half ago. If Hans hasn't sent you out a copy, I'd like to do that, because we're quite proud of what it is that we're doing here. And we just finished doing a study for the city of Calgary, for the country of Sweden, and we're now expanding quite rapidly into the United States, being well recognized. We just got a green light from the city of Houston, population of 2.3 million people, to use the software for transportation and for structures for bridges. So we're really proud of what we've done. We started out in 2014 to build software for small municipalities. That was the objective when we got started with this. But it seems like the more we get recognized, the more we get understood in terms of what it is that we built, the more people from the larger communities are coming forward to want to work with us on an ongoing basis. So I'm here to I'm the commercial before you get into the movie that Hans is going to put forward. But I just wanted to say that we're very happy with our intention to deliver quality products to small municipalities across the country, and I'm happy to be working with you. Hans has done all the groundwork on the asset management plan, so he's the guy that's going to give the full presentation. And I'm here to just provide some support to him while he goes through that process. If you have any specific questions, I can answer.
Thanks,
Go ahead.
Neil. And it's nice to know we're working with the top. So, and I know we've worked hard over the years. We've worked together before.
Yeah.
And congratulations. So we'll look forward to seeing that.
I'll send it out to you.
Good. Hans, you're taking over now?
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So let me share my screen. Okay, can you see the presentation page?
Not yet.
Not yet. Let me try again.
Here it is. We got
No,
it.
okay, perfect. Okay, well, thanks for the introduction, Neil. And hello to everybody. It's very nice to be able to have the opportunity to present the asset management plan to you. It's been a while in the making, and I apologize for that. We've had, first of all, we had to meet the new regulation, Ontario Regulation 588/17, which this plan fully does, right up to the last phase of the implementation of this regulation. So you don't have to go back every year and add to it. What is due this July is the core assets. And the whole planning process is a little different from the past. They want a lot more detailed analysis of each asset type. And we've done that in the report. We've looked at each asset type in a lot of detail. And then I think in 2024, you have to have all assets, which we already have. And then in 2025, there are just a few additional requirements in terms of levels of service analysis and things like that. Now, we've included that part as well as we possibly could, but there's always room to improve. If you make decisions on level of service targets, etc., and revise them, then we would gladly be able to add that to the report. But basically, the report fulfills all the requirements right through 2025, because we covered on that, maybe not in as much detail as I would like to see, based on the information we had. Almost all your assets assets, we had to do an age-based analysis because we didn't have conditions. So we, of course, age-based is very inaccurate. Sometimes it's usually based on your TCA policy in terms of service life, useful service life. Sometimes those are way off. So this is one area where there's, of course, some inaccuracy in the analysis. There may be assets that reach the age trigger for replacement, and that's what's included in the asset management planning. But in the end, you've taken care of that asset over the years and it's still in good shape. So those kind of things should perhaps be addressed for 2025. And then once, if you have more assets with conditions, we can also define level of service criteria and targets much more precisely. So that just basically as an introduction to the project. We use the DOT software that Neil described for the entire analysis of all asset types, and you purchase the software, so you will have continuous use of it. I will set up a training session with Troy and the department heads to get everybody going on the software. The software is very easy to use, and we are always there to support, of course, but it's everything can be done like from the front end. It's a software over the internet system, so you always have the latest update version. And I don't want to go into the software because it's not what this meeting is about, but I just want to kind of let you know that you will have that tool available to you. You can always refine your analysis as more information becomes available, etc., and includes that in your asset management plan. And of course, we are happy to help you with that as well if you would like that. Okay, so starting with the presentation, we first collected all your inventory from all kinds of sources, and Troy has been an incredible help with that. He searched everywhere to find things for us, both in terms of your GIS system, spreadsheets from the departments, and of course also your TCA report, which we kind of reconciled with the other inventory as well as we could. So as you know, we already did a rate study for you last year. And so all your water assets we really analyzed already in great detail back then. So we did not really address the user fee funded assets like your water system. And while it is all mentioned in the report with reference to your rate study, our main scope was to look at all your tax-funded assets, and also some of those also have other user fees attached to it, like your parks, recreation, and things like that. So that would all be included in that. But we've kind of separated all your water stuff in the analysis to look at where you are with your tax base, and if that meets the requirements going forward of the capital renewal requirements that over the next 10 years. So as I said, PSAP tangible capital asset detail, you said there were some quite a few revisions in there from the last time. So we accommodated all this. Some condition assessment reports were supplied by the township. There was a 2016 road needs study that we used. Now, this is old, but Troy had good records on your repair history over the last 5 years, in particular for your hard surface roads, the chip sealed and hot mix roads, not so much for the gravel roads. So we kind of treated those separately. There's also a bridge OSIM inspection report. We included that as well. Now that report is not very detailed. You can get an OSIM report done on an element level for your bridges. This was done looking at the bridge as a whole. They assigned a bridge condition index for the entire bridge, and then specified repairs that needed to be done. And really the only extent we used this report, apart from setting up all the details and data that came with it on the software, we did include the projects that were recommended with the costs that they estimated in your capital plan going forward for the next 10 years. So this is the extent that we use this for. Insurance documents, we always have to determine the replacement cost of your assets. Usually we use replacement cost provided wherever it is provided. For building assets and fleet assets, we very often use the insured values because that's very often a better representation of the value than using historical costs that we inflate. And then, as I say, as a last resort, we look at your historical installation cost and inflate that to current value. Now, we ran into a little bit of problem with that because there was some equipment that was older, and after we did the first draft report, Troy passed around all the inventories to all the department heads, and they reviewed it. And apparently, on some equipment, the cost more than doubled based on our calculations. And a lot of the times this has to do with change in technology. Sometimes you use a tool before that is no longer, that is obsolete and is replaced by a more high-tech tool with more capabilities, but it's also a lot more expensive. So this is kind of the problem with using historical costs, and that's why we use that only as a last resort to determine the replacement cost value of an asset. So I mentioned that they've done a review of all the documents of the inventories and things like that, and we did revise the draft. We did a revision to include all these changes. And then, of course, we had information from your rate study that we just did a year ago, and also from your old 2013 asset management plan. Some of the older assets that are really where there's little information that we can pull from your TCA report because they're fully depreciated in there. We were able to find some information back in our works that we did in 2013 in terms of installation years and installation costs, etc. So this is kind of where we got all the data from, and we assembled that. We had to make some assumptions along the way, and we used all the information we had to our best ability to represent your asset inventory in the best and most accurate ways that we could. So, as I mentioned, we determined the replacement cost. Actually, the software does that on its own. It automatically looks for replacement cost, and if not available, initial cost, and inflates everything automatically to the start here. In this case, it's 2020. Your asset management plan starts actually from 2021 to 2030, because when we started the projects, the latest financial statements that were available were from 2020. So we kind of had to use 2021 already in the planning stage. And we've included in 2021 all the projects that were done in 2021. They are basically included in that. We force those projects in the capital planning for 2021 that were actually done already. So as you can see, you have about $400 million worth of assets with the largest going on your transportation, which is 292 million. Then you have 35 million structures, 29 million water, 30 million facilities, and then your fleet, parks, and equipment after that. So this it's a huge pool of assets that you have, and a huge value of assets that you have to manage and take care of, and replace when required, or maintain when required. So based on all the analysis we had, this is a state of the infrastructure chart. It shows for each asset type what your current network condition is. And as you can see, it looks pretty good. There's very little problem. There is, like for your roads, yes, your roads, based on our information, overall are in poor condition. This is probably due to the fact also that you do have a lot of gravel roads, and we did not have your repair history for your gravel roads. So the system applies the degradation models for those roads, and if there's no repair taken into consideration, of course, your condition goes down. But overall, your roads, we came up with a really good capital plan for that, trying to kind of meet certain level of service targets as we outlined in the report. And so the roads you can handle if you use the software. You can probably handle it very well. It would be good to get an updated condition rating for the roads, and going forward to also keep a record of all your re-graveling projects that happen throughout the years, that we can keep it updated in the software. So the roads are very good. You can run all kinds of scenarios, and we did like a base scenario, and came up with a pretty good plan for that. So most of the other ones are okay. Oh, there's one thing here, for example, ball field diamonds. You have like 4 ball field diamonds, and they were all built in 52. There's nothing in the TCA that any work was done to them, so they are basically all past their service life and in very poor condition according to the age triggers. They were probably maintained over time, and are probably in a somewhat decent condition, and it would be good, of course, to kind of get a better feel on that. We didn't really dig too deep into it because it's a low value asset and it doesn't really affect the overall financial analysis at all. And then we have, of course, with your wells, that problem we talked about, that you needed a new well. That's why this one well is basically written off and not in production anymore. So it is set to basically end of service life. And all your other assets are very good. Your water treatment plan, and now there are some major projects coming up, and we discussed that with the rate study, also based on age triggers. And at the time we talked about maybe looking into some of the major components of your treatment plan, and assigned conditions and separate service lives for some of those components to get a more accurate prediction. But overall, your assets look very good. As you can see, most of them are in excellent, good or fair condition. We then did the capital planning analysis using the DOT software for all your assets. And this is the capital plan that is included in detail in Appendix A, exactly which asset is to be replaced in what year with, or treated with what treatment in what year. The first year, of course, is pretty heavy because it includes all your backlog. And so it has for example, your buildings, there's a backlog of 4.5 million or 4.7 million, I think it was. And we did not include that in the financial forecasting because it does not make sense to include a building for replacement based on an age trigger. It just doesn't make sense. The buildings are most likely have been maintained, and unless the usefulness or the building has outlived its purpose and usefulness, it is probably still valuable to the municipality. So our recommendation would be to get a building assessment done. We can do building analysis right down to the element, right down to each door handle if you want. But most municipalities get at least the major components assessed and the needs specified for repair. That includes like the building shell, windows, doors, roof is a big component, of course, HVAC, etc. Those are kind of the key components that should be treated separately, rather than just looking at the entire building based on age and then, okay, when those 50 or 60 years of useful life are up, you'll just throw it into your capital plan for full replacement, which does not make sense. So this is why this first year is kind of like this. As I said, in the financial forecasting, we did not include the buildings for replacement. So as you can see here, it's fairly much, I'm not sure exactly what the average is. I think it's just below $3 million over the 10-year period, your capital needs, based again on all the assumptions you made and the age triggers that trigger those kind of capital projects for most assets. So this just shows some of the major projects. Like here we have the buildings, vehicles. We have a little bit of a backlog on vehicles, but again, vehicles are based on age. And some of your vehicles, heavy-duty vehicles, fire vehicles, etc., are very expensive, and so this should also be probably looked at more closely. Some of your equipment is older, past its useful service life, but probably still in good working order. So all this was your backlog that has built up from before. All the assets that have reached the end of their service life are included in the first year. And of course, we talked about the wells. Now with the roads, we do not do a full deficit elimination in the first year. Your budget would be through the roof. So a DOT creates a full maintenance plan for you where you set service targets. And then we came up with about 1.15 million per year in your capital budget and about another 40 or 45,000 a year for your routine maintenance, which is like your crack sealing and some really light treatments, maintenance treatments for your roads. So these are kind of your main projects. And then as you go through the years, you will see that there are some things like your bridges. Again, bridges are based on end of life replacement triggers. Okay. So, so this is kind of not very accurate that way in some respect. Okay, so we did some assumptions for the financial analysis. We assumed a 3.5% inflation rate. Now, we used to do like 2% last year, but now things are starting to look a little bit crazy. And I think we are now at somewhere between 5 and 6% at the moment. And I was just talking to somebody, the non-residential construction index is even up 18% this year. And we just assumed that over a 10-year period, 3.5 would be a reasonable assumption. Okay. So these are, of course, things that are unpredictable. And because of that, your plan should periodically be reflected. But we use this as a base, and we use that same base for your property taxes and user fees and operating expenses. We used for everything the same 3.5% base. And then you can look at kind of how much more do I need to raise my my revenues above this base rate going forward. We used your Canada Community Building Fund revenue, formerly gas tax. In 2021, it was 427,000 as per AMO table. This included a top up, which I believe they do from time to time, but this is not a regular recurring thing. So we basically did only use the base allocation going forward. It was already provided for 2022 and 2023. And beyond 2023, we just kept this amount constant for your gas taxes. And then, as I mentioned already, building replacements are based on age triggers, and we did not include them in the financial forecasting analysis. Okay, so analyzing all that, we looked at all your operating expenses, your capital requirements, and you are currently contributing on average about $1.4 million to your capital plan. This is your excess from your operating. Like what is left over at the end of the year, that is, you can be used for capital projects. Now, we did not include grants or anything like that, because grants, of course, as you know, you have to apply for each individual. There's no sure thing what you get each year. So, and of course, the asset management plan, the purpose of it is to bring you to a situation of self-sufficiency. So it does not include grants. So if you think you can count on a certain amount of grants, you can use that to basically to close this gap. Now, as I mentioned, your required contribution is about 2.9 million based on those capital plans that I explained before, with a lot of them having factors in there that are purely age-based replacements and may not be reflective of the actual situation. Now, this is how asset management planning is done. You basically create your best possible capital plan. And if you don't have conditions, of course, and move to age, the accuracy suffers. So basically, you are only funding about half your requirements based on that assumption and based on all the assumptions you made in that capital planning. So how to close the funding gap? So we calculated that you would have to increase your property taxes and user fees annually by 2.7% above the 3.5 base rate based on inflation to a rate of 6.2%. And other options, of course, you can put a special infrastructure levy. You can reduce your level of service targets by deferring replacement. You can use debt financing and government grants. So these are just some general options. The most important one is the one on top, which gives you an indication of how much you have to increase your tax-based revenues to close that gap. Now, last one is our recommendations. So the first one, of course, is to adopt the principles of asset management, doing the right thing at the right time to maximize your service you get out of your assets at minimum cost. To do this, we recommend you use the DOT software to optimize your capital planning decision. DOT is one of the very few softwares that use true optimization. The word optimization is misused a lot. A lot of people refer to it as a cost-benefit analysis already as an optimization, but it's not. And based on the input, you cannot find a better solution mathematically than with using the optimization technology. It's basically impossible. The only thing that, of course, you have, it deals with the data you give in, right? So whatever you put in, that's what you get out. And but based on your input, you cannot find a better solution than what you get with the software. Next one would be to embrace preventive maintenance to minimize life cycle costs. This applies, of course, to all your major assets, especially your roads, buildings, bridges, etc. For your roads, there are lots of treatment options available in the industry that are inexpensive, that provide a good gain in service life, and minimize your life cycle cost and maximize the life of the assets. And that is a whole purpose. Like by using, if you use this software with all its capabilities, you can probably expect to at least save 15 to 30% of your annual road budget compared to traditional methods that municipalities have been using. And so we highly recommend that you use preventive maintenance as much as possible, and to maintain your good assets before you tackle your bad assets, because your poor assets are poor already, and you want to make sure that your good assets are well maintained, and that so they don't become poor assets before the time that they have to, before it's due. Next one would be to move from an age-based towards a condition-based analysis for your critical and high-value assets with regularly scheduled condition assessments. Now, this is very, very important. It will greatly improve the analysis. You don't necessarily have to hire consultants to do a lot of those things. Many of our clients, they use an internal system to rate their assets on a scale from 0 to 10, or from 0 to 5, very poor, poor, fair, good, and very good. And this is and even if this is kind of arbitrary, it is still a lot better than working strictly with age. So this is a really important point in terms of asset management planning, to move towards that. And everybody is in the same boat. Everybody, very few people, very few municipalities have good condition reports, inspection reports available. And this is really a key point moving forward. For your big assets like facilities and structures, including your water treatment plant, you should consider an element-based setup and an element-based inspection to bring accuracy to the analysis. Those assets, they have a lot of components. DOT has the capability to, it's all actually pre-filled with the OSIM standard, for example, for bridges, all the elements in the OSIM report. We also have a tool available for inspection of bridge inspection, which we acquired recently, and it allows you to do a very detailed inspection of each of your bridges in a very reasonable and easy way. And those kind of things can help you tremendously to move your asset management planning forward. Next one would be to define level of service targets for all asset types. This goes hand in hand with going to condition ratings. We use this of course, for your roads, because for your roads, there are lots of treatments available. We know exactly what your condition is based on your assessment, and then we estimate the current condition based on the degradation models and the repair history. So we were able to define some level of service targets for that. But this should be really done for all assets, and this will be much easier, this process, if you have some kind of condition rating attached to your assets. Next one is to create a public communication program to engage the community in discussing the true cost of services and the assets required to provide those services. It's good for asset management to have a communication policy in place to basically deal with and include all the stakeholders in the discussions, and so that everybody realizes what is required to maintain all your assets in a certain condition, and how much it costs, and what the limitations are, etc. And the last one would be to maintain the asset management plan as a living document. The asset management plan should not be something that is put in a drawer to collect dust. It should be continuously updated and used in your asset management planning. You should continue to keep refining the plan by adding to the data, and so that your asset management planning really becomes a part of the whole process, how you manage your assets. And I believe that's it. Yes, that's it. So thank you very much for listening to me. And if you have any questions, please let me know now. I just quickly, maybe before we go to questions, I just want to show you the DOT software. You have the software is available to Troy and all the departments. And we have all the assets installed in it, all the ones which have data symbols here, we have implemented for you. That's where you get data for. And it's a very comprehensive tool with very solid engineering models behind it. As I mentioned, planning is not a financial exercise alone. You have to have proper engineering models, and if the engineering isn't right, then your asset management plan isn't right. And we've spent an incredible amount of time working with partners, municipalities, universities to develop these engineering models in the software. And it's basically ready to use. They can all be modified based on application, but it's ready to use in the software. And that's why we got this very high rating to the Verdantix report, because it's a very, it doesn't just look nice in the front end, the modeling behind it is very deep and sophisticated. And you don't have to get involved with it. Large cities sometimes have their own engineering departments and they want to tweak their own models and things like that, but it's an out-of-the-box system that you can use. It also has a built-in feature where you can revise your degradation models based on actual data. So it looks at all your data, all your assessments, all your data points, and then it draws a predictive modeling curve for degradations through those data to refine your degradation models to fit your actual needs. So this is a feature that if you really want to get sophisticated about it, it's always available to use. It's very easy to use as well. Okay, so, and I'm working with Troy and the department heads on implementing that. Troy wanted to wait until we have this draft AMP done and basically present it to you before we get into the software and keep working. Okay, so anybody have any questions?
Thanks, Hans. That was a great presentation. I'm going to open it up to council for questions. Anyone?
Well, through the mayor, my comment would be it's impressive. The breakdown and the detail is really impressive. I can see why you have been receiving accolades, that's for sure. So thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Oh,
I think it's your dot. It would be a fantastic asset for the municipality to move forward.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and as more and more municipalities move through much better asset management planning, this is an incredibly useful tool, and the good thing is also it's very easy to use from the front end, because we designed it initially for smaller municipalities who didn't have the budget to buy $1 million systems with which we compete, and it has all the functionality and easy user interface. We always say it's as easy as online banking, even though I think it might be a little bit more difficult, but we are here to provide training and moving forward also now with all those asset management regulations that are in place and which are being tied to you being able to receive grants and things like that. It's a very useful tool.
So it would be an excellent tool to use when we hear of funding opportunities and staff are applying for that funding.
Yeah.
It
And you
would be a
can-
good backup.
Yeah, and you can very easily create a scenario where you put that extra funding in, and it will then show you how to best spend that money for the assets.
This, I sent you out the Verdantics report. I sent it to Pat, so presumably she'll circulate it to you if you want to do some late night reading on it. But yeah, we're very happy with the progress we've made, and to be acknowledged in this way is substantial for us. As you know, Gail, it's been, I think we started writing late 2014. We started writing
Yes.
software, and it's now 2022. It's been quite the journey. I'm actually only 30 years old, and this is what building software does to you. A lot of sleep.
And we've missed talking at conferences over the past couple of years as well, and catching up on a few things. So hopefully, they're now getting started again. It'll be good for council members to see you in person and hear the updates right there.
We went to, we've been traveling a fair bit in the US. They just don't care about any of these mandates, and they don't wear masks, and they have these open buffets. They, no sneeze guards or anything like that. They just don't care. But in Canada, of course, it's been terrible. And we just got back from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities conference in Regina. It was our first time to put up a booth and, actually shake hands with people coming through. So it's great to be back to some kind of a normal way to live.
Yes, for sure. Any further questions from council? No? Troy, do you have any?
Sure. I just want to thank Neil and Hans for all your work, and all of the department heads for providing the information. As you can see, it's really key to get the software up and going and staff trained on it, which we will do in the very near future. I do think council and the public should know that probably some of the numbers will change when we, getting some input, like especially in roads. Like I know the former public works manager, and the roads aren't that bad. So, but as soon as we get staff,
We gave him extra money for a few years.
as soon as we get staff trained and we get some updated information, I think you'll see the numbers quite a bit better than what it's presented. But great job, Hans and Neil. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Great job, Hans.
Very good job, Hans, and thank
Yeah,
you
right.
both.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much. Very nice to see you again.
For sure, for sure.
Okay,
Thanks so much for
Bye-bye.
the business. Game.
okay, bye-bye.
So item 7 is, or do you want to do anything more with this? We've received the presentation and it will come back.
Yes, so we're going to bring it forward to council at our meeting on the 16th of June.
Okay,
And ask the council at that time to approve the document, and as you mentioned, it is a living document, so there will be changes as we go along. We do have to have it approved by July 1st.
okay, okay. So item 7 is approval of the confirming bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw number 74, 2022, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special council meeting asset management held on Thursday, June 9th, be read and deemed passed this 9th day of June, 2022. Have a mover? Moved by Deputy Mayor Gibson, second by Councillor Booth. All in favor? Carried. Can I make a little announcement about the cattlemen's thing? Just before we adjourn, I sent you an email yesterday about the cattlemen's dinner and that being posted on our website and on in the office here. We were asked to do that. It's in July 7th. July 7th, the
Yes.
cattlemen. And Jim has tickets if any members want it or any members from the public want tickets for that dinner. It's usually a good barbecue and program, so. And it will be held at Russell and Christine Taylor's farm in Roseneath this year. So I just wanted to mention that. Anything else from council that you want to mention?
I'd like to mention that the whole hosting Twilight meeting is on the following Wednesday. And it's at Bob McComb's, just east of Castleton.
Okay, is that tickets to go to or anybody can just go to?
You can get tickets at the door.
Okay, how much are they?
They'll be the same, $20.
20, okay. Okay, anything further? I'll entertain the motion to adjourn at 10:26 a.m. Hoover, Deputy Mayor Gibson, second, Councillor Philp, all in favor? Carried. Okay. So we're back this afternoon. I guess we can't go right into this meeting, can we?
It's a bit of a challenge when you advertise with the time.
We thought this meeting would be longer.
Last meeting would go longer.
I did too, because I thought they'd go touch